And we are live. It's Healthy Topics again on the Room Show podcast. I'm your host, Room, with Dr.Aliah. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Rome. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Summer's just about over.
It's starting to give that fall feeling in the morning for sure.
Right. That nice cool air.
Yep, I don't mind it, to be honest with you. It definitely is a wake up in the morning.
Right. And I know you had a relaunch. How's that going?
Relaunch is going great. And then we are actually working on the next cohort. So you'll see that coming soon in the background. So super excited. Work never stops.
Right. And around what time would you be releasing that?
So we are looking at right now this weekend and then this coming up weekend. Hopefully, we're starting to tease out and launch or tease out and post some of those launches coming. So over the next couple weeks, everybody keep your eyes peeled.
Right. You excited?
I am. I'm always excited. I love this stuff.
Right. So let's talk about something people rarely think about when your body is on its way to an injury, right?
hmm
Um, and you don't feel the pain, where is the problem actually is? Like, where is it?
Yeah. So I like to tell everybody, right? By the time people usually reach out to me, they are already in pain, right? So I like to tell everybody the problem has already been happening. Just the thing that's made you pay attention to it now is the pain. So, in the sense of heading towards the injury, right? I'm going to reverse it a little bit. Let's work on prevention. That doesn't mean things aren't going to happen. Injuries, accidents happen all the time. You could be in the best shape, do all the prep work. Guess what? Injuries still do happen. But I think from a prevention standpoint, right? Moving your body, flexibility, strength. And when I say strength, I'm not talking like one rep max. I'm talking all the little muscles, the stability muscles that not a lot of people pay attention to all the time. Give them some love because that's how we start to pay attention to or prevent those overuse injuries from happening. I'll say overuse versus like, hey, I stepped off a step wrong and rolled my ankle, right? Those are the accidents that sometimes they just happen. Um, but really, to answer your question, once pain shows up, that means we probably could have gotten ahead of this 3 months, 6 months prior to.
Good one. That's a good pointer. Um, can two people have the exact same injury but require completely different recovery plans?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So remember, you are a one of one. Your nutrition is a one of one. Your sleep um, cycle is a one of one. Your water intake or hydration intake is a one of one. Your everyday job, right? Or how much you move. The desk worker that sits 9 to 5 versus, you know, I mean, the Amazon truck driver that's in and out of their truck every 2 minutes, they're getting that constant movement. I always like to say your story leading up to that injury really tells how your recovery or your rehab plan is going to go. The sedentary person that does the 9 to 5 and then they go home and they sit on the couch and they binge watch Netflix, right? Our rehab or recovery plan is probably going to take us a little bit longer because I like to say, as good as you went into that injury is as good or as quick as you're going to come out of it. So, absolutely, your rehab recovery plan it can definitely look different with the same exact injury.
Different for everybody, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And we spend a lot of time talking about like physical strength. But what about like confidence in your body after an injury? How do you help someone overcome the fear of moving again?
Yeah. So, Rome, I can even like the beauty of my story, right? Is I can talk about this on a personal level, not even a professional level. So obviously got into this my profession because I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus. I was down and out for 8 months. I will tell you, even the year I was cleared to come back and play, I was not myself. It took me probably even a year later to feel like myself again. So that confidence piece, the hey, I can do this and I'm not going to, re tear my ACL or tear the other one. Um, Physical is one thing, but mental is a whole nother level. I have patients all the time, my older population, who they fall once, and I can tell. I go in there, we do an evaluation, and they're petrified to even stand up, because they don't want to fall again, right? So that confidence, the repetition that you have to reteach the body so you feel confident again to do the movement, sometimes, if not all the time, is way more important than anything I'm doing physical. So it's
Right.
everything, to be honest.
Yeah, that's very important.
Absolutely.
What happens when someone gets comfortable with being uncomfortable? In other words, they had stiffness, limited movement, or like soreness for so long, and they start believing that's just how their body is
Ah, that is the bane of my existence from people all the time. They're like, Aaliyah, it's just age, right? And I
now.
will fight that all the time. I go in, even my 90-year-old patients, right? They're like, well, I'm old. And I'm like, you're still a spring chicken. Like, why are we just blaming it on age? Um, does age play a factor? Sometimes, but I don't let patients buy into that, right? Because I'm always of the, hey, you weren't like this at one point. It might take us a little bit, but we're going to undo this. A lot of times from a physical therapy standpoint, right? This has nothing to do with physical. This is more, we talk about mental, right? The psyche. I have to find the thing that really drives them. So sometimes, and when I say drives, I mean like motivates, right? Um, Sometimes it's, "Hey, I can't play with my grandkids," right? Or, "Hey, I can't go with my daughter to X, Y, and Z," right? So a lot of times I have to dig in and find the thing to undo the, "Hey, it's just age," or "I'm comfortable being stiff." So if I can find that one thing that kinda makes them tick, I usually can backtrack out of that with them, but that's don't get me wrong, I have had some patients that are like, they will till they're blue in the face tell me it's age and there's nothing I can do. So, if they believe that and they're gonna stay on that, it's hard to work with that person sometimes.
Kind of stubborn.
Yeah. For sure.
Good one. And let's talk about like everyday movements. People never think about like getting out of bed, getting groceries, climbing stairs, sitting down. Sometimes I could like pull something just by like
Yeah.
picking something up.
Yeah. So it's funny. I was just watching a podcast from one of my favorite physios, Kelly Starrett, and he was talking about, and I totally could get behind this, right? Like, and you and I have talked about stretching a lot or flexibility. And one of the things that he said was get comfortable moving into weird positions. So, not just the, hey, I'm going to do the pigeon stretch and I'm just going to lean forward, right? I'm going to do the pigeon stretch, but I'm going to work on the diagonals as well, right? We're not beings that just move in like the frontal plane, meaning flexion extension, right? We oftentimes are in diagonals in weird positions. So, like you're saying, right? Hey, Leah, I get up from my chair, I go to twist, right? We don't often just, we're not robots. We diagonal all the time. So, it's super important to work into those diagonals. That way, when you go to do it, it's not the first time you're doing it, right? So, talking about repetition, always introducing these movements to your body. That way, it's not the first time they're feeling them.
Right. Good one. Um, Here's like a little controversial one. Are there
Yeah.
situations where stretching can actually make the problem worse? We're always told to stretch when something feels tight.
Yeah. So I am not of the mindset anymore. I was when I first got out of PT school. I have strongly reversed this with all research and stuff that has come out. Um, I'm oftentimes not going to tell people to stretch anymore, to be honest with you. I'm going to tell them and argue the reason you're so tight is because your muscles are weak, or they don't operate efficiently, or they don't have motor control. So they're not turning on when you tell them to, right? So what's happening is, if you can imagine, that muscle is just like a tight band, and it's staying that way because it's easier to then let go, because the muscles around it aren't doing their job. So, yes, there is a lot of controversy behind this, but there is a lot of research to also back. 9 times out of 10, the reason you're tight is because you're either weak or inefficient somewhere else. So you can spend all the time in the world stretching. You're not really hitting the root cause of the issue. So if you continue to stretch, I'm going to tell you, you're really not going to get too far with it.
right? So you have to like work out and exercise and move around.
Yeah, your muscles, right? We need to contract and relax those muscles. They like that tension and that overload. Just thinking we're going to stretch out of something, and talk about patients who can be stubborn, right? And of that generation that will only stretch, right? I'm thinking of a specific patient. I went and looked at her routine, and I will tell you 95% of her routine that she was given was all stretching. And she's like, Leah, I can't get anywhere. And I'm like, well, you can't get anywhere because you're not strengthening anything. So she really plateaued because the program that was built for her before was all stretching, no strengthening. So there needs to be, I'm okay with people stretching, but I would tell you, switch to like 90% some strength training and 10% some stretching.
Go. That's a good point too.
Yep.
And last one, if you could give people a physical therapy mindset, something they could apply to their body every day instead of waiting until something goes wrong, what would that mindset be?
The mindset would be, right, the sooner you handle weaknesses or imbalances before pain shows up, the easier it is going to be to rehab and recover. Right. Again, like I said, I'm going to echo, that does not mean injuries and accidents aren't going to happen. I'm sure they will at some point. Right. If you go throughout your whole life with no injury or no accident, you are a one of one also. Usually, some point, something shows up. Um, but the faster or the earlier you work on something, right? And Rome, my school is all based on balance, right? So I'm a big pusher, whether it's strengthening, whether it's balance, the sooner or younger you hit it, and it always needs a tune up, the easier life is going to be as you continue to age. And that's where we fight that aging. So I'm going to bring everything full circle we talked about today.
Go on, that was a great one. Well,
Yep.
as you know, it's always great to do this. We'll be back next month with another episode.
Absolutely. Thank you, as always, for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great week.
You too. Bye, Rob.
All right, take care.